All right, welcome everybody to today's live onboarding. Thanks everybody for joining, and I hope everybody gets some good, valuable information out of this. If you're new to Ledger and maybe you have a device that you just got and you haven't set it up yet, or maybe you've had a Ledger Nano for a while and you haven't got around to setting it up, please feel free to go grab your device right now and we can set it up together. I'm going to go through just a couple housekeeping things here before we get started. So you have a couple minutes to go grab your Nano if you haven't quite set it up. And what better time to get it set up than right here together. So just a quick agenda. What I want to go over today is, of course, that device setup, getting your Nano set up for the very first time, and go over some best practices about the best things to do when using your Nano and some things to look out for just to avoid you from getting into any situations that you don't want to be in. And then after we get things set up with our Ledger Nano, we're going to go ahead and transfer over to Ledger Live and get Ledger Live set up. If you don't know, if you haven't heard of Ledger Live, that is our native application to help manage your digital assets. Ledger Live and your Ledger Nano are two different things, right? Ledger Live is that software application on your computer that you use to view and manage your funds that are associated to the Ledger Nano that is connected to it. Your funds do not live in Ledger Live nor your Nano. We'll get into that a little bit later, but they are two things to help you securely manage your digital assets. We'll give you a little bit of a tutorial about how to navigate Ledger Live and maybe some tips and tricks to keep in mind when using it. And then hopefully, we'll see how long this takes. Hopefully we'll have maybe 5 to 10 minutes at the end and we can do some Q&A and pick up some questions from the chat. So let's get into it here. Cool. All right. And if you all haven't met me before, my name is Brady. I am here on the customer success team here at Ledger. You may be familiar if you're tuning in for a second or a third time. You may be familiar with my colleagues, Tim or Ty, who also do these live onboardings as well. But I'm really excited to be here and walk through this together. So let's go ahead and get into it. The first thing that we're going to start with today is setting up the Ledger Nano. And here is a World of Women Ledger Nano. This is a custom Nano that we did in partnership with World of Women that we're going to get set up today. So when you're unboxing your Nano, you're going to have a few things. You're going to have one, of course, the Ledger Nano device itself. So this is the fun part, right? And then you're going to have this packet here that gives you some valuable information about getting started with your Ledger device, some things to look out for, and of course, where to go to download Ledger Live, which we'll get to in a little bit. But inside this sleeve here, you're also going to have the most important piece of information in this in your packaging, and that is your recovery phrase sheet. This is the most important thing that we're going to be dealing with today, so pay special close attention to this. This is even more important than your device itself, believe it or not. So we'll get into that in just a bit. So this is, like I mentioned, the World of Women Nano, and this is the Ledger Nano S Plus. So we have two models that we sell on ledger.com right now. We have the Nano S Plus that you see here, this custom Nano S Plus. And then we also have our Ledger Nano X. And the key differences between those two devices is the Ledger Nano X has Bluetooth capability. And of course, with that, it comes with a battery. So you're able to connect that to a mobile phone, especially iPhone and Android. And you can be able to make transactions on the go. It doesn't require a wired connection at all. One little caveat there to keep in mind is if you are an Android user, you can actually still use the Ledger Nano S Plus with your Android phone. It connects through a wired connection to your phone. But if you are an iOS user and you don't want to use desktop for managing your crypto assets, then you're going to need to go with the Ledger Nano X. So if you're an iOS user, you only want to do mobile stuff, you will need that Ledger Nano X. So we'll do in the future, we always mix it up. So in the future, if you want to tune in for Ledger Nano X onboarding, that's fine. But keep in mind that it's going to be very much the same exact process for either device. Cool. And kind of speaking about mobile as well, today we're going to be, when we get into Ledger Live, I know I haven't talked about it too much yet, but when we get into actually connecting to our native software, we're going to be doing it desktop today, and we will do some shows in the future for mobile, but today it is going to be on desktop. All right, so let's get into things here. So again, This is the Nano S Plus. It does require this wired connection, and you may notice some folks that the port on this Nano S can be pretty snug, right? We want a really secure connection with there, so that is a snug port. If you just kind of barely plug it in there, you just kind of barely slip it in there, it's not going to power on, and that does confuse some folks if you just barely push it in there. You know, hey, my device isn't powering on. So make sure when you do get your device, you give that a good snug, and you'll hear that snap, and that's what will power on the device. All right. So what we're looking at here is the welcome screen. This is going to walk you through a bit of a tutorial, which of course I'm walking through with you right now. So we're not going to get into too many of the details that's on the screen because it's just walking you through. All right. So it's just going to tell you how to navigate the device. The device is really simple. It's a very analog device. There's only 2 buttons on it. So when you're thinking about navigating through the device, think of like a file and folder system. That's kind of how the device is structured. Is you click into different folders that have different separate files, and to get back to where you were before, you kind of can just you backtrack. So it's a forward and backwards file and folder system is a good way to think about it. So what it's telling you here is you can navigate directionally, right? Obviously, left button to go to the left and right button to go right. And then when you land on a selection that you want to make on the Nano, you simultaneously press both buttons. It's not like a long hold. You're not holding down on the Nano. You're not holding things down. It's just a quick press. Cool. And then I just click to the right, and the next screen is just going to tell you where to download Ledger Live, which is, of course, ledger.com/start. And we'll show you what Ledger Live looks like after we get this device set up. All right. Giving you just some more instruction things, and to navigate through this initial onboarding, I'm just clicking to the right. All right, we're gonna have a couple of options here. The first option is set up as new device, which is what we're gonna do today. If you click to the right again, you'll see another option that is restore from recovery phrase. We're not really gonna get into that right now. If you're brand new to Ledger, you've never had a 24-word recovery phrase from a Ledger device before, then you're gonna click to the left here, and you're gonna want to select this option. This option is gonna give you a brand new 24-word recovery phrase, which is what we want to do when you're new to Ledger, right? You want your brand new, fresh, never been seen 24-word recovery phrase. So that's the option we're gonna select today. So I'm gonna go ahead and press both buttons to select that option. All right, what the device is asking me to do now is to set a PIN code for the device. You can choose anywhere between 4 to 8 digits, as the screen says, and I would recommend choosing whatever is best suited for your needs, right? I don't want to give any recommendations on how you should secure yourself in terms of how long of a PIN code, how complicated to make it. You want it to be difficult to guess, impossible to guess, obviously, but also something that you can remember. So obviously, the more digits, the more secure. So whatever you think best fits your needs, I would say to go with. Keep in mind, the PIN code is local to the device. This PIN code has nothing to do with your assets on the blockchain, right? Your accounts are not tied to this PIN code from a blockchain perspective. This is just simply a local PIN code to log into the device. So it's similar to unlocking your phone with a PIN code, right? It's very similar to just using that PIN code on your phone to get access into your phone. But right, your phone's PIN code doesn't have any relation to any of your apps. It's just to get into the phone. Similar thing going on here. Cool. One thing to remember too is your PIN code has you only have 3 chances to enter your PIN code correctly before the device resets itself and will require you to restore it with the 24-word recovery phrase that you get. We'll get into that a little bit later because we haven't even started with the recovery phrase yet. So let's not get too into the weeds here. So from this page, I'm going to go ahead and click both buttons to move forward. And now here's where I'm actually going to enter my PIN code. Your PIN code screen might look a little bit different if you have an older device. Maybe you recently bought your device, but it's one that's been on the shelf for a little bit longer, and it doesn't have the latest firmware installed on it. So just keep in mind, don't be alarmed if your pin code screen just looks a little bit differently. You might have a pin code screen, excuse me, where the numbers are more of like a slot machine and you scroll through the numbers to select the right one. In the latest versions of our Nano firmware, we have this new screen where it's more of a lateral movement to select through the digits. So yeah, this is pretty self-explanatory here. You're just going to move directionally left and right on the device screen to land on the number that you want to choose. You see there's that little underline that shows you what number you're currently on. For demonstration purposes, I'm just going to choose 1111 as my pin code. Obviously, I wouldn't recommend that because somebody could easily guess that. That would probably be somebody's first guess. So what I did there was I selected both buttons simultaneously to click the 1. I'm going to go back to the 1, and I'm going to select it again. And you'll notice every time I select it, the cursor is snapping to a random different position in the string of numbers. And that is actually by design. So we did that intentionally because we don't want somebody sitting next to you to be able to guess or to be able to figure out the amount of clicks, the pattern of clicks it takes to unlock your device. But it's actually a security mechanism because so now every time you unlock your device, it'll always be a random set of clicks to actually punch in your PIN code. So I'm going to keep going through here. And now I have my PIN code set, and it's going to make me confirm my PIN code. So I'm just going to put it in one more time. And again, just clicking left and right like this. And then once I get on number 1, I click both buttons to select it. So now you'll see at the very end here, there's that little check mark. That is your confirm button. That's like your enter button on a keyboard. So once you've entered in your PIN code, make sure that your cursor is on that check, and then select both buttons to select the check. So now I've just confirmed my PIN code. Next, we are going to get into the most important part of the setup. If anybody is in here walking through this with me right now, this is the most important part. This is the part that we should be paying the most attention to, and that is generating that recovery phrase and getting it written down on a sheet of paper, specifically the sheet of paper that comes with the Ledger device. Let's get into it. The device says, write down your recovery phrase. Very self-explanatory. I want you to make sure that you're writing this thing down. So it's going to give you a little bit of tutorial about what's happening. Essentially what is happening is the device is going to provide you with a 24-word recovery phrase. There are some interesting technical details that are happening behind the scenes with this device. But it's important to note that, long story short, it's important to note that the Ledger device isn't, you don't have your recovery phrase like predetermined by this device, right? This device doesn't come with a fixed amount of recovery phrases stored in it and it just gives you one when you ask for it. That's not really what's going on. You can think of this device similar to a random number function being punched on a calculator. And in that example, the device, the Nano, is the calculator. So there's a certain function outlined in a cryptographic standard that is used to actually generate 24-word recovery phrases. It's outlined in the BIP39 standard, specifically, if you want to investigate and do your own research on that. So really what this device is doing is it's running that function. It's simply running the function that outputs a random 24-word recovery phrase. And we do have our own proprietary standards around making sure that that is a high level of randomness. But again, the device itself, long story short, it's not preloaded with recovery phrases. It's running a function that puts out a random recovery phrase. So when you get this recovery phrase, it is a random recovery phrase that's being seen for the first time. Cool. So the device is just alerting you when I scroll through these pages here. I'm just clicking to the right to advance. Typically, the right button on the Nano is how you advance through this tutorial. It's just alerting you saying, hey, make sure you write this thing down. It's your one and only backup to all of your assets. And we'll dive into that a little bit more when we get into Ledger Live, but this is your one and only backup to all of your blockchain accounts that are associated with it. So make sure that you take extra good care of it. And at the very end here, it's going to say press both buttons to continue, which I will do. All right, here's where we get into the fun stuff. So word number 1, cargo. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab our recovery sheet here. And you'll notice on the recovery sheet that there is 4 columns. And you may have, if you have the Nano X, you may have a little bit different of recovery sheet. I don't have one in here. But some devices come with a 2-column recovery sheet. This one's 4-column. What you want to do, though, is you want to pay extra close attention to the structure of the numbers, excuse me. The structure of the numbers. So it's 1 through 6 in this column, and then 7 through 12, 13 through 18, 19 through 24. So you're moving up and down through the recovery phrase when you're recording it. And I say that because the position of your words throughout your recovery phrase are just as important as the words themselves. So a word in your recovery phrase is dependent on the words before it. So make sure, be very, very certain that when you're recording your recovery phrase, you're recording it in the exact order that the Ledger Nano provides you, and that you don't mix up. You don't want to record left or right and left. You want to record up and down. Because if you record right to left, you're going to be recording 1, 7, 13, 19, and that might get you confused. All right, so I'm going to try to fly through this as quickly as possible. So I'm just going to write all of these words down in order. First word is cargo. And to click to the next word, I simply just click to the right. And my second word is gorilla. And I'm just going to go through this really quickly. Keep in mind, this is 100% demonstration purposes only. You should never expose your recovery phrase anywhere online. It is very odd to see a recovery phrase online. So this recovery phrase that you're seeing right now will never be used. This is purely for demonstration purposes only. If someone were to have your recovery phrase, whether it be through some sort of social engineering or successful scam attempt, if they had your recovery phrase, that attacker would have just as much access to your funds as you do. And if somebody else has your recovery phrase, there is nothing that your Ledger device does to protect you at that point. At that point, if somebody else has your recovery phrase, your Ledger device is essentially useless, at least with that recovery phrase. 15 is age. You also want to be really mindful if you're somebody who has not the best penmanship, as myself. I don't have great handwriting. But you want to be very mindful that you are writing this down as legibly as you possibly can. Try to use your best handwriting when doing this. Reason being is there is a certain number of words, there's a specific set of words, of recovery phrase words, that's outlined in what's called the BIP39. We're using that word again. It's a very, very important word in the crypto space. It's called the BIP39 word list, and it's a list of 2,048 words. So there's a fixed amount of recovery phrase words that are used. So you want to make sure that you're writing your words down extremely legibly, because you never want to be in a situation where you are unable to read your own handwriting, or you are mixing up one word for another because the way you wrote it, it looks like a different word. "22 is rapid, just a couple more words here. Awesome. So I'm on my 24th word. And from here, I'm going to click one more time to the right, and it's going to tell me to verify my 24 words. See if we can get that shot on the screen for you. It says verify your 24 words by pressing to the left. This stage could confuse folks sometimes. What the device is telling you to do is just keep clicking to the left all the way, and just make sure that you have written down the words in order correctly on your sheet. So cross-reference your sheet with the number of word that the device is showing you. So all it's saying is to go all the way back down to the end all the way to word number 1 and check. Cool. Now, once I'm on word number 1, I'm going to click the right button and go all the way back to the end again. So now when I'm on this page, I'm going to select both buttons at the same time, press both buttons to continue. Awesome. So now at this stage, we are going to confirm our recovery phrase. This is essentially a quiz. The device is quizzing you to make sure that you have everything recorded correctly. Essentially, you're being asked 2 times to verify that you did things correctly. The device wants you to make sure that you know for a fact that you've done everything correctly, because that will prevent you from being in difficult situations in the future. All right, so this stage can sometimes trip people up also. So let's break it down a little bit. The device is showing me word number 1. And if you're able to see that, the lighting might be a little bit off, but the word number 1 on the device says lottery, which is actually not the correct word. My correct word number 1 is cargo. So what you need to do here is click to the right, and you're going to see that there's actually multiple options for word number 1. I have 4 different options to choose from. So this is just a multiple choice question saying, hey, what is your word number 1? Is it lottery? Is it cargo? Is it ranch? Or is it age? Those are the 4 word options that I have. And we know, because I wrote it down, that my word number 1 is cargo. So the correct answer is cargo. And once I'm on cargo, I'll select both buttons at the same time to continue. And then it's going to ask me the same thing for word number 2. And we're just going to repeat that process. So we're going to go through this multiple choice quiz and verify that we have everything written down correctly. So my word number 2 is gorilla. Does bring home box. Protect. Physical. Raise. Feel free to take your time here. Don't rush along with me. I will pause at the end here and kind of go over some other things so you can catch up yourself. All right. I'm going to pause there for a second before I move on to let anybody who's following along to catch up. And I'll take a drink of water while we're waiting. If you made a mistake when doing the recovery phrase quiz, the device will tell you if you chose one or more incorrect options. It'll say, hey, invalid recovery phrase, that did not work, try again. And you'll want to make sure that just go through again and try it again. If you've tried 2 or 3 times and you're just not getting it right, then you know something wrong happened. If that's the case, it's not the device. The device is not falsely telling you that the recovery phrase is being entered incorrectly. It's just a matter of fact that the recovery phrase was incorrectly recorded and you're not putting it in the right order. At that stage, I would recommend turning off the device, tearing up that recovery phrase since there's nothing on it, so you don't get it mixed up with anything else, and just starting over from scratch and being very mindful about the order that you are recording the recovery phrase. All right, hopefully everybody's caught up by now. If not, if you were taking a little bit of time, that's totally okay. Do not rush this process. You can always come back and watch the recording. All right, it says your recovery phrase is set. Keep it in a secure place. If lost or stolen or forgotten, all your assets become immediately lost. That is true. Without your recovery phrase, there is nothing that anybody can do to help you recover your assets. You are the one and only person who has ever seen the recovery phrase that you get. So there's no one that can help you restore access to that. It says never share it with anyone, and Ledger will never ask you for it. Very important to keep in mind, especially when you're out on social media platforms. Crypto scams are unfortunately all too common these days. So if you're ever online looking for help, or somebody just happens to DM you and mentions something about something, and they're asking for your recovery phrase, or maybe they link you to a website that asks you to enter your recovery phrase, red flag, turn around the other way. No one will ever ask you for it, and you won't need to enter it anywhere online. I'm going to click to the right again to continue, and then I'm going to click both buttons at the same time to continue. All right, awesome. So my device is ready, as the screen says. And when you select go to dashboard, you're just going to have these two options, install app and the control center. So when you select the control center, it doesn't actually take you to the control center. It just gives you the instructions on how to get to the control center. So when I'm here, I'm going to press to the right and then back to dashboard. And that's a pretty common pattern in the device. That's how you navigate the device. So if I select an app, selecting an app is like selecting a folder. And then within that folder, there are files, right? So then I can just navigate through these different files down to the end. It says to go back. So once I get to the end is usually when I can go back to where I started. So it's just kind of that linear pattern to keep in mind when you're navigating the device. To actually access the control center, you can just hold both buttons down for a few seconds. And then now I'm in the control center where I have settings, have an ability to lock my device, close the control center, and back to settings. So if I select both buttons, then I'll be in the settings menu. We're not going to explore the settings menu today because we don't really need to do anything here. But to get out of it, I just click all the way to the right, all the way to the end, and click back. All right. So at this point, the device is all set up. The device setup is complete. So it's really important that now you have this recovery phrase sheet. Very important that you keep this thing safe and protected and in a secure location. So whatever a secure location means to you is what you should follow along with. There are many different places that people secure their device, and it really is up to you. We do have some options online too as well. I'll grab one. If you want to make this copy of your recovery phrase a little bit more permanent, we do have options on shop.ledger.com where you can better secure your recovery phrase in metal, right? Because this is on paper, so there's the chance that it could deteriorate or whatever. Maybe paper isn't as good of a peace of mind for you. So you do have options like this Billfodl where you can actually use a steel plate to record your recovery phrase. So if any kind of like fire or flooding were to happen, it wouldn't destroy that paper copy. You would have a more durable copy here in steel. So this is just one of a couple options that we have on shop.ledger.com. So be sure to check that out and see if that is something for you. Okay. So now that the device is set up, we are going to go over to Ledger Live. We're going to switch gears here and focus on Ledger Live. At this point, we can kind of put the concept of the Nano on the back burner. It's still going to play an important role here, but it's not going to be extremely top of mind right now. Right now, we're going to be thinking more about software on our computer. Cool. So to get to Ledger Live, all you need to search for is ledger.com/start. It is on it is on this sheet that comes in the contents of your packaging. So we can just Google ledger.com/start. And here is where we can download and install Ledger Live. The Ledger Live is a really slick software that we have built out that helps you view and manage a wide variety of crypto assets. So honestly, it's one of the most powerful crypto management platforms out there that I've come across. And of course, Ledger Live doesn't cover every single asset out there. There are tens of thousands of assets out there, but it does cover a staggering and impressive amount of crypto assets. So we do support Windows operating systems, Mac, and Linux. If you're a Linux user, keep in mind we only support Ubuntu 20.04 and above, and we do not fully support derivatives of Ubuntu. So if you're somebody who's running a more obscure version of Linux, you may run into issues there connecting to Ledger Live. So just keep that in mind. All right, so since I'm on Mac, I would, of course, download the Mac application. And I do already have it downloaded, so we're just going to jump right over to Ledger Live. So this is what Ledger Live looks like when you first open it up. What we're going to focus on here is just, we're just going to go ahead and get started. We already have a device, and we already set it up. If you don't have a device, but you plan on buying one and you still want to have a little bit of a tutorial, you can click this second option, No Device, Buy Ledger Nano X, and it will take you to shop.ledger.com where you can compare our devices, make your purchase, and then there's actually an option in here, as I was alluding to earlier, where you can actually do a tutorial with Ledger Live. So there is that option. But for us, we're going to go ahead and get started today. And then we're going to select the Nano that we have. We have the Ledger Nano S Plus. All right, so here you have a few options here. So first time using Ledger Nano S Plus, this is the option, excuse me, that you will select if you want to walk through a tutorial with Ledger Live. Ledger Live will walk you through the recovery phrase generation that I just walked you through. So if you want to do that with Ledger Live, if you don't have your Nano yet, you can choose that option. Since we already have a recovery phrase, we already set up the Ledger Nano prior, we're going to go ahead and choose this option, and we're just going to connect your Nano S Plus to Ledger Live. So I want to select this option. All right. So what Ledger Live is going to do here is it's going to take your device through a quick genuine check. And this just checks that the Nano that is connected has genuine Ledger Live firmware on it, and that it doesn't detect any sort of tampering with the firmware. So this is an important step to help give you peace of mind that the Nano that you're using is a secure, genuine Ledger Nano from Ledger. All right. So to start this genuine check, I'm just going to click down here. The me down here is blocking the button a little bit, but right behind our screen here, it says check my Nano in the bottom right. So we'll go ahead and select that. And it's just going to take a couple minutes, and it says, oh, your device locked. You'll notice it locked right at the moment when it was trying to perform the genuine check. You can see that I'm on the screensaver. That's okay. We'll go ahead and wake the device up by selecting a button, and then just re-enter our PIN code to unlock it. All right. So now after I have unlocked the device, I'm going to go ahead and click this retry button. And then we have to allow Ledger on our device. So this is an interesting little step here. The device actually doesn't trust Ledger Live, right? Like I mentioned earlier, Ledger Live and the Ledger device are two different things. And in terms of the perspective of the Nano is just viewing Ledger Live as any other software application out on the internet, and it doesn't trust it. It wants to make sure that you trust what you're using, so it's going to make you verify that this is a trusted application to use. And that's what we're doing when we're confirming it on our device. So it says allow Ledger Manager on the Nano. I'm going to click both buttons to say yes. All right, and it says all good. Your Ledger Nano S Plus is genuine and ready to use with Ledger Live. So we'll go ahead and click continue. At the bottom right-hand corner that's hidden behind our webcam is a continue button. So we'll go ahead and click continue. All right, so this is our very first view of Ledger Live. This is what you're going to see when you haven't added any accounts, you haven't done anything yet in Ledger Live. You're going to see this. So you'll have pretty limited options on the left-hand side. You'll notice that a lot of these options are grayed out, and that is simply because we haven't yet added our first account. So when you add your first account in Ledger Live, you'll always add it from this portfolio tab. This is where you go to add your first account. And what do I mean by adding an account? Well, the account is your account on the blockchain, right? So you're not adding a Ledger Live account, right? You're not creating an account with Ledger Live. You don't have any sort of account with Ledger Live. This is a application that is local to your machine. And even if you reinstalled it, it wouldn't have any effect on your funds because your funds are on the blockchain. They're not in this application. What this application is going to do is it's just going to view your accounts on the blockchain and display you that blockchain data in a really user-friendly and easy to digest way. So it's important to note too that remember that recovery phrase that we generated, all of our accounts that we're going to add here and display in Ledger Live, all of those accounts come from that 24-word recovery phrase. That's why that recovery phrase is your one and only backup to all of your accounts on the blockchain, because all of your accounts on the blockchain come from it. So you can start to see that relationship there. So every account I add here comes from this unique recovery phrase that we just generated and wrote down. So let's go ahead and add our first account. Your recovery phrase will be able to derive, it's already out there in the ether, so to speak. Your recovery phrase will be able to provide accounts for any sort of cryptocurrency, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, all of those tokens, everything. Everything that follows the same standard that's outlined in BIP39 that I was alluding to earlier, any projects and networks and stuff that adhere to that will be able to be used with the ledger, with the 24-word recovery phrase that's on your ledger. Cool. So let's go ahead and add my first Bitcoin account. So this is going to be a Bitcoin account that comes from that 24-word recovery phrase currently loaded on my device. So I'm getting a fresh, brand new Bitcoin account. And I'll go ahead and click continue. We're going to check some app dependencies here. And what that means is, oh, okay. So it's saying that it first wants me to download it from the manager tab. And that's okay. We can go ahead and do that first. So go ahead and open my ledger here. So my ledger is this very bottom tab. This is the, oh, excuse me. I just need to change one thing. You can disregard anything that I'm doing here. There we go. Go back to my ledger. Okay. Yeah, sorry, I was on an experimental version of Ledger Live, so I went back to the consumer version of Ledger Live. So actually, we're gonna go back to the portfolio tab because it's just a more intuitive flow. So we're gonna go ahead and go through that process again. I'm gonna go back to the portfolio tab. I'm gonna click add my first account. And then I'm gonna choose Bitcoin. I wanna add my first Bitcoin account. So what Ledger Live is going to do is it's going to check your Nano and it's going to say, hey, do you have the Bitcoin app installed on your Ledger Nano? And each network that you're working with has its own app. So there's a Bitcoin app, there's an Ethereum app, there's a Cardano app, one for Solana, and so on. So since it didn't see that you already had the Bitcoin app loaded onto or installed on your Nano, it went ahead and just automatically did that for you. So now that I have the Bitcoin app installed on my Nano, I'm going to go ahead and open it by selecting both buttons. And then now I can continue adding my Bitcoin account. It's going to take a little bit to synchronize to be able to display my first account. You can think of apps on your Nano as sort of instruction manuals for the Nano. Out of the box, the Nano has no clue what Bitcoin is or Ethereum is. All it knows is how to derive 24-word recovery phrases and how to store those in its secure element. That's all it knows. So we have to kind of teach it what Bitcoin is, right? This is what Bitcoin is. This is how you derive a Bitcoin account. This is how you sign. This is what a Bitcoin transaction looks like and how you sign it. So that's what these apps are. It's an instruction manual for the device that teaches it about the network that you're going to use. So here I'm going to go ahead and add my first Bitcoin account. And at this stage, you can rename your account. By default, it's Bitcoin 1, but you can name it whatever you want. Maybe you want to name it My Bitcoin, or maybe you want to name it Main Bitcoin. Maybe you're going to have a couple Bitcoin accounts for a couple different things. This is my main one, so to speak. Cool. And then you have to select this little option here, this little box, because you want to say, yes, I do want to add this account. Then add account. And then done. Cool. So now if I go to this accounts tab right here in Ledger Live, this is where I'm going to be able to view all of the accounts that I just added. And as you can see, here is my Bitcoin account. So if you're anything like me, most of your time in Ledger Live will be spent in your accounts tab, right? This is how you view all of your accounts, see all your balances, and what have you. If you do go back to the portfolio tab, you will see like a full holistic overview of all of the total amount of money you have across all of your accounts. And you'll see that holistically all rolled up into a single total balance. Me personally, I like this accounts tab. I like to see how much I have in each individual account. It's just the way that I work, but everybody's a little bit different. So we can do the same thing again if we want to add, say, for example, an Ethereum account. So I'll go ahead and add Ethereum. And go ahead and click continue. It's going to notice that I don't have the Ethereum app on my device, and it's going to install it automatically for me. And when I say the word device, what I'm referring to is the Ledger Nano. When you hear the word device, I'm speaking about the Nano. All right, open the Ethereum app. I did. And it's going to synchronize and get me my first Ethereum address. All right, Ethereum 1. Maybe I'll call this main Ethereum 2, just so that we're following along with the same wording, and add account. Great, so now I have my two different accounts here. So now you're probably wondering, okay, great, I have these brand new secure empty accounts that are associated with my 24-word recovery phrase. Well, how do I send my Bitcoin to it, right? Or how do I send my Ethereum to it? Well, it's a pretty simple process. Say, for example, you're using an exchange. Maybe right now that you're holding Bitcoin on an exchange, whether it's Coinbase or Binance or what have you. On those exchanges, you'll have the option to make a withdrawal. So you'll see an option in your exchange account that says withdrawal. You'll select that withdrawal, and then you'll select what asset you want to withdraw. And say, for example, you want to withdraw Bitcoin. So you'll select deposit, you'll select withdrawal, then you'll select Bitcoin, and then it's going to ask you, hey, where do you want to send this Bitcoin to? Well, you want to send it to your Ledger Bitcoin account, right? That's what we're going to do here. We're going to be sending our funds from where they currently are over to our Ledger accounts. So to do that, we just need to get the address to our account. You can do that by selecting the account, and then select this button that says receive. Go ahead and hit receive. All right. And then go ahead and click continue. So we're gonna have to open the Bitcoin app on our Nano again. And we're gonna have to verify the address that we see on our computer with the address that is displayed on the device. Great. So this is one of our Bitcoin addresses that we will use to send our Bitcoin to. So in a situation where you're sending from an exchange to Ledger, you're going to copy this address. And then when you're making your withdrawal on the exchange, in the to field, in the destination field of like, hey, where are you making this withdrawal to? You're going to paste this address here that you got from your Ledger Bitcoin account. Now, before you go ahead and paste it in the destination field and execute that transaction on the exchange, you'll want to make sure that the address that the device is displaying you matches the address that's shown on the on your computer screen in Ledger Live. Like I said earlier, your device doesn't trust Ledger Live any more than it does anything else. So in this situation, it's saying, hey, I get it. Ledger Live is showing you a certain address, fine. But trust me, right? I am the offline device. I am showing you directly from your recovery phrase what your public address should be. So this is a trusted display. This display here, this little nano screen, is the source of truth. So just make sure that what you see here in Ledger Live is indeed the same exact address you see here on your Nano. So once you see that everything is fine and great, again, hit that copy, this little copy button here on the right, so that it's copied to your clipboard, and then you can approve by clicking to the right and then approve, and it'll close that window for you. Now that your address is copied, you can go ahead and go back over to the exchange, complete that withdrawal, execute it, and it'll take anywhere from a few moments to a few minutes for your Bitcoin to broadcast to the network, be settled, and then show up here in your Ledger Live Bitcoin account. And then you'll rinse and repeat for all of the other cryptocurrencies that you currently hold outside of Ledger. All right, that pretty much wraps things up here. I'm gonna do a little bit of Q&A and also check out, show you some other things within Ledger Live. Before I jump into any Q&A, I really want to drive home the fact that your funds do not live in Ledger Live, right? These aren't your Ledger Live accounts, so to speak, or your Ledger accounts, so to speak. Your 24-word recovery phrase that your accounts are derived from, it's a generic 24-word recovery phrase, right? So there's a host of other wallets outside of Ledger that follow the same pattern of recovery phrase generation, meaning that you, if in a situation where Ledger Live became extinct, right? Maybe we lived in an alternate reality where Ledger Live wasn't a thing, Ledger wasn't a thing, but you still had your 24-word recovery phrase, you could take that to a host of any other wallets that follow the same pattern that we did and gain access to the exact same accounts. So what you're seeing here are blockchain accounts. These accounts are on the blockchain. They're not in Ledger. They're not on your Nano. They're on the blockchain. Your Nano is just storing the 24-word recovery phrase that is the backup to your accounts. And to really drive that home, I am going to I'm going to add an account from my personal Nano into this exact same installment of Ledger Live. Like I said earlier, Ledger Live is just a tool to visualize accounts on the blockchain, but it is by no means the custodian of your accounts on the blockchain. So check this out. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in my personal Nano, my personal work Nano. This is my testing Nano. I'm going to enter my PIN code without showing you guys. And this is the Ledger Nano X. This is the one with Bluetooth and a battery. Cool. So check this out. I'm going to go ahead and add an Ethereum account that was derived from the recovery phrase that's on this, that's currently loaded onto this Nano. So if I were to go to add account in this same exact installment of Ledger Live, wait for things to load here. We got a little bit of latency. I'm going to choose Ethereum, and I'm going to go continue. The device is asking me to open my Ethereum app, so I will. And then check this out. So this is my personal Ethereum account. I can go ahead and hit add account and check that out. So now I'm viewing an account from a completely different recovery phrase in this exact same installment of Ledger Live. So that really drives home the point that Ledger Live is just helping you view accounts on the blockchain, but it is by no means the custodian of your funds. If I just reset Ledger Live, nothing would happen to my blockchain accounts. They would still just be there on the blockchain. and I could just spin up Ledger Live again and re-add those accounts and add back the exact same accounts. So now what happens if I try to interact with this account using the original Nano that we set up? Let's see what that looks like. I'm going to open the Ethereum app on my Nano. Then I'm going to try to make a transaction. Say, hey, you know, somebody added this account into my Ledger Live a while back. I'm going to try to send out their money. Let's see what happens. So really quickly, I'm just gonna send it to myself really quick. And this was not a best practice. This is just demonstration purposes only. You should never get your address without verifying your address. But I'm just gonna do this for a demonstration. And say I wanted to send out this money, right? Like, hey, I'm gonna take this money. Now we're to hit continue. I'm gonna send max, continue, continue. Oh, Ledger Live says, nuh-uh, that is not that account that you're trying to send money from. The account that you tried to send money from did not come from the recovery phrase that's currently loaded on the Nano that you have connected. So keep that in mind. It's very important to remember that every single account comes from its own paternal recovery phrase. So if you ever see this message, you know without a doubt that you have the wrong recovery phrase then that you need to access that account. So you would need to reset your Ledger device and restore it with a different recovery phrase that you have to have somewhere else. You probably record it somewhere else to be able to gain access to that account. Cool. Well, I hope that was thorough. I hope everybody here learned something new. There's all kinds of other stuff here to explore in Ledger Live. We have our beautiful Discover tab that has all kinds of cool apps that you can check out for buying and selling and staking cryptocurrencies. So be sure to explore this. What's great about all of these applications is that they all support clear signing. So all of the information, so when you're about to sign a transaction, you'll be able to see really clear information on your physical Nano screen about that transaction. So you have good peace of mind that you're interacting with something that is genuine. So these are really cool. These are all third-party providers. Like Ledger didn't build all of these different applications. These are all different projects and people that we've partnered with and that are available here through Ledger Live, but these are not Ledger-specific applications. So we also have our Ledger card that you can check out. This is our CL card that you can load up with cryptocurrency and go and spend you use your cryptocurrency to make everyday purchases like groceries and gas and what have you. It's a really quick and convenient way to spend cryptocurrency on the go. Be sure and check that out. And then we have our market tab. This is just market information similar to CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap. This is just pulling in all of the prices of crypto assets currently. Cool. So I think we have time for a couple questions here. Let's go ahead and see what's going on in the chat. I hope everybody enjoyed that demonstration. All right, let's see what we got here. Oh, it looks like Steve at Ledger has been helping out in the chat with moderation. Thanks so much, Steve. You have been absolutely crushing it. Let's go with these ones after. Jordan, Stacks will have a similar capacity to the Nano X, and similar capacity to the Nano X and the Nano S Plus, which both have roughly the same similar storage capacities. Flavio asked, why was the option to select token on Ethereum account during receive process was removed from Ledger Live? Yeah, so when you go to receive a token like Ethereum, you can, if you have a token there, you can select the token to receive. That option is still there. But when you continue, and I guess I'll show you here. Oop. Oh. or actually, no, that's the wrong device. We'll just go ahead and you should never use this option, don't have your device, unless you just want to like maybe search your account for something. You always want to verify your address on the Nano, but just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to use it. Yeah, when you're receiving a Ethereum token, you're actually just sending that token to your Ethereum address, even though the name of the token is not Ethereum, right? In this case, it was DAI. You might have other Ethereum tokens out there. So yeah, when you're using tokens within the Ethereum network, you're just simply sending those tokens to your Ethereum address. They share the same Ethereum address. So when you do receive tokens, you will see that they are nested under your Ethereum account as a token under that account. So yeah, tokens are sent to your actual Ethereum address. There's not different addresses for your tokens. Paul Wright asks, I tried to use Type-C to micro USB on Ledger Live yesterday and plug it into a Samsung mobile phone. However, there was no power on the Nano. It will only work with a Ledger OTG kit. Let's see. I would definitely just try a different cable. Maybe that cable could be faulty, but if it works on other devices, then maybe not. Another thing to consider is that cables need to support data transfer. There are different types of cables. Some cables are purely just charging cables, while others support data transfer. When you're using your Nano, you need to use a cable that supports data transfer for it to work. Otherwise, you'll run into connection issues. So yeah, you don't technically have to use the cable that came with your device, but you absolutely should. If you have it, it'll save you just a lot of headache. The cable is designed specifically to work best with the Nano device. Aditya, and apologies, Aditya D. Apologies if I mispronounced your name. I'm thinking of making my ledger as a 2FA tool. Is it safe for us to use in the cold wallet? Yeah, I think you're asking, hey, is it okay to use my device as a 2FA device? Absolutely, yes. If you go to the My Ledger tab, let's see, let's go here. If you go into My Ledger, we'll connect and lock one of our devices here. And you search FIDO. FIDO 2FA is our two-factor authentication app. So you can actually install this app on your Nano, and there are lots of applications within the 2FA, I think, what do they call it? The 2FA, the FIDO, excuse me, the FIDO Alliance. There are lots of web providers out there that are within the FIDO Alliance, so that you would actually be able to use your Nano for 2FA to log into your accounts within those services. For example, I actually use my Ledger as 2FA to get into my Coinbase account. So I have an account on Coinbase. I love using Coinbase, and when so for my 2FA, I just 2FA with my physical Ledger Nano. So we actually do have a Help Center article on that, and I will show you that right now. I'll link it in the chat. And I will at you here. There you go. I hope that helps. I think FIDO U2F is great. And yeah, it's nice to be able to use your Ledger device for something else. Arian asks, tell me important points about buying a used Ledger device. Yeah, I mean, technically speaking, there is nothing wrong with using a used device. We sometimes here in the office joke about gas station devices that we find like on the ground at a gas station. We as tech support would feel totally comfortable spinning up that device and using it because we know and we trust the protocols and the processes that are in place in the device to make sure that it remains genuine. And when you plug in a device to Ledger Live is going to run that genuine check. It's going to make sure that, hey, the device that you have plugged in is a genuine Ledger device and that it's safe to use. So Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's totally up to you. I don't want to tell you to go use a used device by any means. If anything, I would encourage you to purchase a device from authorized resellers. At the end of the day, from the technical perspective, there are some caveats to think about in terms of it's, we put in processes to make it safe to use, to be able to use a device that was previously used. So there really shouldn't be any security concerns there, but really in terms of just functionality and having a warranty and things like that, it may be a better option to purchase from some of our authorized resellers or from ledger.com. 007 Bond asks, when will Uniswap come to the Discover tab of Ledger Live? Yeah, we do have Paraswap and 1inch right now in the Discover tab. I don't really know of any ETA of when other decentralized exchanges, DEXs, will be available in the Discover tab, but we at Ledger are constantly building, we are constantly partnering with other protocols and projects out there. So our goal is to make Ledger Live as usable and inviting as possible. So I would love to see something like that added in the future. LS Swap Everything asks, how many chains can you store on a Nano S Plus? So the Nano S Plus and the Nano X, both of these devices hold up to 100 different apps at one time, meaning that you could theoretically manage funds on up to 100 different networks at one time. But keep in mind, the apps on your Nano are just the instruction manual for the Nano, so you can add and remove apps as much as you want. Removing an app from your Nano has no effect on your funds whatsoever. So if you are a crypto guru and you are managing over 100 different networks, you could do that on a single Nano and just add and remove apps as needed. But yeah, both of these devices are going to hold about 100 different apps at one time. Demori Robinson asks, how do you redeem the $30 Bitcoin from the April 18th promotion? Yes, you're referring to the Safe Journey transfer. So when you're ready to go and redeem that, you'll actually redeem it directly here in Ledger Live. Just go ahead and go to the Discover tab. And then you're going to use this Refer a Friend application. You don't have to refer a friend to redeem your $30 in Bitcoin from this promotion. We just piggybacked off of this app to use to redeem these gift cards that we sent out for this promotion. So you'll go ahead and sign in with Ledger, and you'll have to create an Ethereum account. So I'm going to go ahead and click. I'll just use my main account, or the one that we just added today. You create your Refer a Friend account with an Ethereum account, even though you're going to be redeeming for BTC. Don't get that too confused. The Refer a Friend account is just an account within this application. And to create an account within this application, you use Ethereum. Ethereum is an account-based protocol, so it just makes it easier to create and manage accounts using Ethereum, opposed to like Bitcoin, which is more of a UTXO model. So I'll go ahead and connect this main account and continue. I got to actually verify it on my device. Okay, that's okay. We'll go quick. We're coming up on time here. I'll try to snag one more question before I get kicked out of the studio. Open the Ethereum app. We're just going to have to sign this message to create this, saying, hey, do you want to create this account? So you want to review those details and then scroll all the way to the end and then click both buttons to sign message. Awesome. Great. So then once you're here in the Refer a Friend app, let's go down here to redeem gift code. And then you'll enter your code that came on your Bitcoin gift card. And then once you enter, you'll go ahead and click redeem code. And then it'll pop up down here somewhere as like a line item. It'll say your what you redeemed, how much time you have until you can claim it. So with this gift card here, you'll have at least 15 days up to 30 days of a waiting period where you'll have to wait until you can actually claim that Bitcoin. But then once your 15-day waiting days is up, you can go back into this app and you'll see a claim button there and you'll be good to go. All right. RH asks, what happens to my Tron, which was staked? How do I get it back? All right. So they're referring to Tron Staking 2.0 that's no longer supported in Ledger Live. But like I was referring to earlier, Ledger Live is not the custodian of your funds, not even your staked funds, right? Everything is happening on the blockchain. Nothing you see in Ledger Live is in Ledger Live, right? It's just a tool to visualize accounts on the blockchain. So if you've staked Tron using Ledger Live, you didn't stake it in Ledger Live by any means. Ledger doesn't have any influence on your Tron that is staked. It's staked in the Tron network. So in this situation, you can go to TronScan and you can connect your Nano to TronScan to use as a substitute to Ledger Live to be able to view and manage your staked Tron. So I'll show you what that looks like. So if you were to just go to Tron link, actually go Tron link Ledger support. We do have a support article for it. Connect your Ledger to Tron with Tron link. I'll send this to you, RH. There it is there. This is a full tutorial. And yeah, Tron link is a really great tool. And you can actually connect to TronScan as well. I think, right? Isn't, yeah, you can. Yeah, Connect Wallet. You can connect to TronScan directly using Ledger, which is really slick. Or you can first connect to Tron Link, which is their native wallet to also view and manage your stake. But yeah, you'll connect to one of these other wallet services to use as a substitute to Ledger Live to view and manage your staked Tron. So I hope that helps. All right, looks like we are 10 minutes over, but I'm glad that we were able to do some Q&A here. Thank you everybody for joining. I hope you really enjoyed the broadcast. We will be back live next Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific time to do a live AMA. So feel free to join that and ask any questions that you have related to Ledger or Web3 in general, and we'd be happy to help you as much as we can. So stay safe out there, everybody. Make sure that your recovery phrase stays safe and secure. Remember, this is your one and only key to or backup to all of your funds on the blockchain. So keep this thing safe. If that is one thing you remember from this broadcast, it's that this is everything, right? It's more important than your Nano. It's more important than your computer. This piece of paper, these 24 words are everything. So protect that as much as you can. So, and remember, nobody out there will ever need your recovery phrase, and Ledger will never ask for it. So have a great weekend, everybody. Take care, and we'll see you next time.